Welcome to the Play-by-Play with Patrick and Brandon. You're a home for updates and insights into the sports world. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Play-by-Play. As always, I'm Patrick. I'm here with Brandon. How you doing today, Brandon?
Doing fantastic. A lot going on in the sports world. Some devastating news for UFC fans that we'll get to later in the episode, but overall doing good, doing good.
Yeah, huge couple weeks for sports, and we haven't been able to talk about a lot of it in a couple weeks, but there was great reason for that. If you haven't watched our last couple of episodes, we had some pretty amazing guests on. In episode 5, we had the opportunity to talk with Todd Archer. He's the NFL Nation lead reporter for the Dallas Cowboys, working at ESPN. He gave us some great insights into the Cowboys, the Cowboys' history, the Cowboys' future, and then as well as just his career, what he's done throughout his life, and some great advice for both myself and Brandon, and then also just anybody else interested in the world of sports media. Super insightful conversation. Definitely check that one out. And then our next episode was another one for the football fans. We were able to talk with the quarterback for the Central Connecticut State University Blue Devils, Brady Olson. He gave us insights into his career as well. He made a big transfer from UMass Amherst to Central Connecticut State University this past year, and they were able to win the championship in his first season with Central Connecticut State. They also ended up playing UMass, so there were a lot of great stories from him in that episode. Super great conversation. Again, if you like football at all, both of those episodes are absolutely for you. Or if you're just interested in a good story, good conversation, definitely check them out. They were pretty awesome guests. It was great of them to come on the show with us and take the time to do that. So huge thank you to those two gentlemen, Todd Archer and Brady Olson. And with that being said, let's get on with the show.
All right,
So I th
so first up on the docket, we got to talk about it. Pat, I know you've been sort of billing it as possibly the greatest weekend in the history of women's sports, and I think there's definitely a case to be made. We'll kick it off with women's boxing. Katie Taylor defeated Amanda Serrano in the trilogy fight. They fought two times before. Taylor won both of those by decision. And same story, more the same. Refs scored 95-95, 97-93, and 97-93 for Katie Taylor, who walks away with a 3-0 record in that trilogy. Pat, what do you have to say about that?
mean, I think regardless of the way you look at it, this was probably the most anticipated fight of the year. I mean, you had the biggest boxing event in recent history with the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight in, I believe that was January, February, earlier this year. Um, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I believe
Obviously,
that would have
the
been November or October.
wow,
That
wow,
was a
I'm
while
totally
ago.
off.
That
Okay,
was a while ago.
I thought that was more recent. Wow.
No, it was
Ob
it was a while ago, but like it's been on everyone's minds.
yeah,
So
obviously the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight was pretty underwhelming. You put a super old guy in the ring, and especially since he almost died a couple months before, that wasn't super great. But anybody that watched that definitely got their worth out of the event because Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 2 was probably the greatest fight I've seen in my entire life. They beat the brakes off each other for in every single round. There were absolute fireworks in that fight. Very contentious ending to that fight. I know Amanda Serrano came out looking like an absolute hero. The crowd loved her. Katie Taylor ended up winning that fight, of course. And I agreed with the referee decision in that fight. I think Katie Taylor just did way more damage at the end of the day. And that's very underrated in the scoring of boxing or just mixed martial arts in general, in my opinion. So coming into this fight, the world was rooting for Amanda Serrano. I went in rooting for Katie Taylor. Had to root for the Irish in this one. Although I don't necessarily love the decision, I think 97 to 93 scoring is a little bit ludicrous. I could have seen a 96-94 for Katie Taylor. I personally would have scored it 95-95. It was a very close bout. They did very similar amounts of damage. I think the one reason the referees gave it to Katie Taylor is because of how much more accurate she was consistently throughout the fight. Um, Looking at the statistics, that's something big, but I do think one thing to consider is that Amanda Serrano was the aggressor throughout the entire fight. Katie Taylor is backpedaling, which clearly worked in her favor in the eyes of the judges. but in my opinion, if you're the aggressor, you're going to be swinging more. And they still landed a similar amount of punches. Obviously, there were some rounds that Katie Taylor took over, but especially early in the fight, I thought Amanda Serrano had more of those rounds locked down. Um, so definitely a contentious decision. Congratulations to Katie Taylor. The one other thing I wanted to talk about was the production of the event. I think when you go into an event like this, MVP puts on, I believe, their second ever promotion. I could be totally wrong on that, but I believe it was the Paul Tyson fight, and then this is their second ever entire MVP thing. But so especially going into an all women's production, you need to be on point with everything. I thought the overall production of the event was incredible. The lights were amazing. They had the music on point every single time. They treated every athlete that walked out like a true superstar. The one thing that I didn't like was in the main event, Amanda Serrano got a much bigger entrance, which I think coming out of their last fight, she was more acclaimed by the fans. So that doesn't surprise me. She had the Knicks dancers come out. They played two songs, I believe, as opposed to Katie Taylor just played her one song and then walked out. They both got hype videos, which was cool. The one thing I didn't like was Jake Paul walked Amanda Serrano to the ring. And the reason I don't like that is because Jake Paul, I believe he owns MVP, Most Valuable
Yeah, he's the
Promotions.
owner. He's the owner, and I believe he's the founder too. And I think there might be a reason for that. In I believe it was March, Amanda Serrano signed a lifetime contract with Most Valuable Promotions, and she's also going to serve as a chairwoman for the company. So she's going to work for them after she retires as a boxer. So if I had to guess, Paul's just trying to promote his people, and if Serrano's going to be an important part of Most Valuable Promotions going forward, he's probably just looking to get her name out there. Which, I mean, from a business perspective, I get it, but in a fight, you kind of want to
That
give
business
everyone equal
perspective to
footing.
me too is I kind of don't get it because I understand that part, I totally do, but to me, like, again, this is probably the most anticipated fight of the year, and it's your fight. You're promoting it, so I think you, especially during the fight night, you should be pretty even-handed with both of these women, and so to
Yeah,
walk out
definitely.
with Amanda Serrano, that definitely paints a portrait of who you want to win the fight. I don't think I've ever seen Dana White walk out with a UFC fighter. I mean, we can talk about how much he loves certain fighters. Oh, John Jones, John Jones. I
I
don't
think
think
the
he's
only
ever
time
done
he
that.
did that was I think the only time he's ever like openly favored someone in a fight like that was McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather back in like 2017. But that was because it was a UFC guy
Yeah,
fighting a boxer. I
absolutely.
don't think in any I don't think in any UFC pay-per-view he like openly picks sides with a fighter. I mean, he certainly has fighters he doesn't like. For anyone interested in seeing Dana White rant against people he doesn't like, just look about Dana talking about Tito Ortiz back in the day. Did not have a whole lot of kind words to say. Those videos are absolutely hilarious. But yeah, like I don't know. It kind of just kind of reads the
It
wrong way
really
for
rubbed me
Jake.
the wrong way. You're supposed to be acting like a professional there, especially because this event, just by its nature, is going to be under a lot of scrutiny from a lot of the public. There are some people that are going to look to pick this apart just because it's a women's boxing event, which is, again, just super preposterous. Um, the main event itself was another incredible fight. It was definitely a lot more technical than their last fight. I think they were both playing a lot more reserve. But with that being said, there were still plenty of fireworks in the fight. There were a couple engagements, especially in the corner, where they both got their licks in. Super fun to watch. Great event. Great day for women's boxing. I did not get a chance to see the viewership numbers for this, but it was on Netflix, so I imagine a lot of people tuned in. And then that was not the only event this weekend for women's sports. We got a slew of super important things. I think next we'll talk about WWE Evolution 2. So similarly, Evolution, the first one was in 2018, and it was an all women's pay-per-view. Um, so they did a second one just this Sunday. I think the main difference between the two events is the first one, the roster was definitely a lot weaker. Obviously, the women's division has always had their stars, but they had to rely on a lot more returns from like, legends from like the early 2000s coming back to fill out that pay-per-view. The difference this year is they were really set up. with probably the strongest roster they've ever had. I mean, you look at the top of the card, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Jade
Big names.
Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, even the younger names that showed out, Stephanie Vacker, Roxanne Perez. It was really just a deep card top to bottom. It's another situation where for the WWE, it might have been the most fun show to watch top to bottom the entire year. There wasn't a bad match on the show. There were a couple standouts in my opinion. The women's battle royal, they got a ton of women into a battle royal and over the top rope battle royal, and the winner received a title shot at Clash in Paris, which I believe is at the end of August. It was a super fun match. Battle royals are always gonna be fun, and they gave this one a decent amount of time. It was a super long pay-per-view, our premium live event. My apologies. Stephanie Vacker ended up winning that. She debuted only a couple months ago. The fans have taken to her super quickly. She's an absolute demon in the ring. It seems like she never gets tired. She hits really hard. Super fun to watch. Um, and then some other big standouts. While the card was, mostly held down by the women on the roster today, we did have a couple legends come back for this show, which I mean you can't be mad at. Anytime you see like a legend come back is always going to be exciting. You had Nikki Bella compete in the women's battle royal, which I thought was cool. And obviously she didn't win, so it was very good for her to put over those younger names. And then you had Trish Stratus fight Tiffany Stratton for the WWE Women's Championship. A great match. They went super fast. Trish Stratus is like 47, 48, and she can still wrestle. It was really impressive. They put on a cool match. And then the best match of the night, maybe the best match of the entire year, was the main event. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley went. I know you're a big Rhea Ripley fan. Um,
Yep, somewhat.
so Io Sky and Rhea Ripley went for what felt like 30 to 40 minutes. I was watching it last night, and it was absolutely insane. And the reason I say it's maybe the best match of the year is I have one pretty distinct problem with almost every WWE main event that they put on at premium live events. And I don't know if you attribute it to the men's wrestlers, they're a little more well known. They're oftentimes the bigger stars. When you get a men's main event out there, and I don't know if you've noticed this or not, Brandon, you'll have to give me your opinion on this. Every time you put them out there, they'll just stand there for like 5 minutes. Just like let the crowd eat it up. Oh, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. They stand there for like 5 minutes doing nothing. And when Roman Reigns isn't in the main event, it does get a little bit faster, but still, they'll stand there, they'll lock up once, and then they'll just stand there again.
Yeah, I have noticed that a little bit, and like I have some of my buddies tell me, oh, it's like it's a slow burn, but I'm like, guys, come on. Like the walkout's already like, and don't get me wrong, I like a cool walkout. I like when the pyro gets going, the music's hype, but something about just seeing them just staring at each other for like you said, like 5 minutes and not really doing anything. I'm like, all right, guy, I don't quite get the point. A slow burn match is one thing where you're like building up from like smaller stuff to bigger stuff, but nothing doesn't work for me. Not at all.
It's ridiculous. And it was super refreshing to see right from the jump, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, who are two of the best performers in the world, they get in the ring and they immediately start going at it. It was super fun to see their contrasting styles, the almost unrivaled strength of Rhea Ripley, and then the speed and high flying nature and technicality in an Io Sky. It was a great match, and it ended with a Money in the Bank cash in.
What did you think of that Money in the Bank cash? I know you've been on the EO Sky train for a little bit, so how did you feel about the ending
Yeah,
of that
so I'll,
match?
I'll get to my opinion in a minute. I think this is just super fun because like a lot of what we talked about earlier is coming full circle. One of the first WWE events we talked about on the show was Money in the Bank. And so Naomi wins the Money in the Bank briefcase. She's held it up until yesterday. And she had a match yesterday. So I don't really think many people were expecting it. She had a match where she lost. She and Jade Cargill fought, a rivalry match. Um, and Jade Cargill beat the hell out of Naomi. Naomi seemed done by the end of that match. So nobody was really expecting a cash in. I know I wasn't. And then she came out in the main event. Both Io Sky and Rhea Ripley were on the ground. They had murdered each other. And Naomi comes out. She has like tape on her nose. Her nose is bleeding. So she's still beat up from the Jade Cargill match. and she comes out, cashes in, and pins Io Sky for the women's championship. Now, personally, congratulations to Naomi. Naomi's a great wrestler, and I know her plan is to start winding down her career within, the next year. So for her to be able to win this championship, just to kind of see all that hard work pay off is pretty incredible. With that being said, I'm not necessarily a fan. Io Sky, in my opinion, is probably the best wrestler in the women's division. One of the best wrestlers in the WWE in its entirety. Um, and you give her this title, you have her win it in shock fashion. She beat Rhea Ripley on a Monday Night Raw. Nobody was really expecting it. The title win was awesome. She retains at WrestleMania against Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, who are probably the two biggest, modern stars in the WWE for the women's division. And then after that, you have Io Sky who can wrestle. Based on her character, she's a baby face. She's a good guy. She should be wrestling. So then you have a month, 2 months, where she just barely defends the title. And that was something I don't understand. Because without the title, before she got the title, she was wrestling every single week. She was wrestling every pay-per-view. Without the title, she's putting on these great matches, being a part of these great feuds. And then you have her do nothing once she gets the belt. I think that's a problem with modern WWE in general, where their champions defend a lot less than they used to. I think again that's a byproduct of Roman Reigns, who held his championship for 1,200 days and probably defended it less than 60 times. But for some reason, WWE higher ups have gotten into their heads that, oh, because of that, this is what people want to see. No. My favorite title reign in recent memory was Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship reign, where he was defending the title sometimes twice a week. He absolutely killed himself for that championship reign. It was awesome to see. Defenses need to be more common in the WWE, and this was a frustrating one to me because one, I feel like Io Sky could have done more with the title. Definitely could have had more feuds, but she could have just wrestled more in general. She's a perfect candidate to have this reign with a crazy amount of defenses, and you do nothing with that. So congratulations to Naomi, but the decision's not my favorite. I'm curious what you have to say about the ending of last night's event.
Yeah, I can't say I know as much about uh, the WWE Evolution event as you do, but I think hitting on the activity issue and not defending your title, it's a weird booking decision, especially when you have someone that's like, just got the title, very entertaining style, could be like a star in the women's division for the foreseeable future. I don't understand the decision to have them just not to say sit out, but be relatively inactive. It seems like a weird decision, and I don't quite get the rationale behind it. The Roman Reigns thing definitely was like, all right, come on, where is he? But then again, they had that sort of build up to a crazy moment at WrestleMania 40. I don't, especially in a situation like this, I don't really see the point of it. I don't see the
I,
point of having Io Sky not defend a title and then just lose it.
it's definitely a byproduct of the recent success of the WWE, and they saw success in that formula. And I think for certain wrestlers, especially bad guys, it can work. Sky's not a bad guy.
No.
Um, but other than that, the event was great. The main event was one of the best matches I've seen in recent memory. Definitely, probably my match of the year, at least up to this point. The one other thing I want to touch on about Evolution is we talk about how Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano had incredible production. WWE Evolution was almost the opposite story. I think every single problem with this event had nothing to do with the wrestlers, and it's really frustrating because there were just random cuts to commercials like during somebody's entrance or on the pre-show you had Jackie Taylor and Big E talking about all the matches, and I believe they're talking about the women's intercontinental championship match that started the night where Becky Lynch retained her belt. And Jackie Taylor says, "Oh, let's cut to like a video to show how these women got here." And then it takes like 2 seconds where the screen's black, and then it cuts back, and she's like, "Oh, okay, so I guess we don't have a video." So the production team just seemed like wildly underprepared for this event. And again, where this is an event that's going to be under extreme amounts of scrutiny, just as the nature of the event, you need to be on point. You need to get people on your side with this one. This is one of the more important events that they put on in the last couple of years, without a doubt. And other than the production issues, it was amazing. The Atlanta crowd was super hot. The wrestling was great. I think there was positive reactions from everyone that watched it. It's just frustrating to see that, the WWE as a company didn't bring their A game when all the wrestlers and the crowd did. Um, so that really sucked to see. The WWE, if they intend to do an event like this again, which I think they should after the success of this one, they need to be better with that, especially when
Absolutely.
I haven't seen problems like that in almost any other WWE pay-per-view I've ever watched. So that really, like, it was just strange. But that's enough on that, I guess. It's just be better.
Yeah, literally just improve. Don't let it happen again.
Yep, of course. And that was not the only, or those two were not the only events this weekend. We also had uh, a specific WNBA game. We had
This
the
is a big
Indiana
one.
Fever play the Dallas Wings, in which the Indiana Fever won 102 to 83. The reason I choose to bring this game up in particular is because the game was moved to the Dallas Mavericks Stadium, because of ticket sales. So it was originally going to be played in the Dallas Wing Stadium, which I believe seats about 6,000. Not a bad stadium, but the game sold 20,000 tickets.
Yep.
Absolutely absurd number. It shows the rising popularity of the WNBA and some of the stars in that league. I mean, I think these ticket sales can be attributed to Caitlin Clark. Not only Caitlin Clark, but also Paige Buckers. You have two of the biggest stars from the women's college basketball tournament in recent memory. They probably are at least two of the three biggest stars from recent memory from women's college basketball, which has seen a huge surge in popularity. It's rivaled, even surpassed in some instances, the men's tournament. So it's really great to see the popularity from this game, and it was a pretty good game too. The Indiana Fever won it pretty handily, but both Paige and Caitlin put on great performances. Paige
They
dropped
definitely.
23 points, and then
Caitlin
Caitlin
Clark was
Clark.
double double with 14 points, 13 assists.
That's just crazy. Absolute clinic. Um, Super fun event.
It's what you
And,
want to see, especially when you have like a league. Basketball is such a star oriented sport. Having Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers both show up, sort of maybe in the future, maybe build up a rivalry. People will look at these games, mark them on the calendar in the future. Like stuff like that's very good for the WNBA. So
yeah, it's exciting to see. Great for the world of women's basketball. And sort of to put this achievement into perspective, in recent history, there were only three games that sold like 20,000 plus tickets. They were all last year, and they were all Caitlin Clark games. So that all happened last year.
that tracks.
And there could be concern or doubt in people's eyes last year where, okay, yeah, three games sold 20,000 tickets, but is it just because of these new stars that just came in? You know, you see Caitlin Clark come in the league, you see Angel Reese come in the league. People are fascinated by that. They just watch this amazing women's college basketball tournament. But is the success going to last? So to see this happen again this year is pretty great. You got more stars coming into the league. Um, so it's super awesome to see. I'm glad that the WNBA is finding more success than it has in the past. And that sort of brings me to the conclusion point and the question I wanted to ask you, because I think it is. Is this the greatest weekend in women's sports history? I think it has to be.
And it's what's interesting is I can't think of another weekend that's had this many big events, all coming down to women's sports. So as of right now, I think it could. I think it could be. I mean, the boxing event was huge. The second Evolution event ever, very big. And then Caitlin Clark's been kind of like the name, not just in women's basketball, but in women's sports. After her rookie season, like she's just continued to get better and become an even bigger star in the sport. So yeah, I think it's not an inaccurate billing to say greatest weekend in history of women's sports.
I think it just changes a lot of perspective too. Like I think that's one of the reasons that it has to be considered probably the greatest weekend in the history of women's sports is it changes a lot of stigma. And I think the reason behind that is, two of the events were combat sports. You look at boxing and really when people talk about boxing, they only talk about men's boxing. But to see these two women in the main event have the most anticipated fight of the year, have one of the greatest rivalries of all time, and be able to headline that pay-per-view. It's just super great to see. And then you look at WWE Evolution, which again, the women's wrestlers were under a lot of scrutiny for a very long time. Especially in the early 2000s, it was a problem of the company where instead of having them, really wrestle, really showcase their talents, they were just doing stupid stuff. So it's good to see that the new management of the WWE, the new ownership in TKO, is really allowing these women to do what they do best. They are wrestlers. So it was super exciting to see. It was a deep pay-per-view top to bottom, which I think was excellent. Probably my favorite pay-per-view of the year, as I said before. Premium live event, sorry. Um, and then, the WNBA, it has seen rising success. So to compound these other two events, I don't think there's much competition, in the debate we're speaking on. So we can leave that there. And then moving on, we also had Wimbledon this past week. So another huge event in the world of sports. And I think this is another super interesting one because it also circles back to what we've talked about on this podcast before. It makes me feel good personally. In the men's singles final, we had Yannick Sinner play Carlos Alcaraz again, a rematch from the French Open, which we talked about, where Carlos Alcaraz had that great comeback. He was down a couple sets and just made a huge return. But Yannick Sinner got his lick back in this one, and it was pretty handily. It was 3-1. He was doing his thing. I think he is the best men's tennis player in the world right now. So it's not really a shock to see that he won this. I do think Alcaraz's win at the French Open was an upset. Yannick Sinner's seen continued success for quite a bit. So it's just impressive to see. And tennis does need new faces because Novak Djokovic is 38 years old. And while he's seen continued success at 38, he made it to the semifinals, super impressive for his age, but he is getting up there. So I wanted to ask you, Brandon, and I think there's a pretty clear answer to this, but as his career starts to wind down, is Novak Djokovic the greatest tennis player of all time?
That's tough. I don't have the level of tennis knowledge that I feel like you have. I feel like that people that watch the sport closely have. I mean, he's one of the few names that I've really like known in tennis. It's really between like talking tennis players that I actually know and have seen. It would be Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal. I mean, Djokovic easily top three. Argument for greatest is definitely there. The fact that he made the semifinals at 38 is ridiculous. That's in a sport that's like so reflex based, and you have to be so quick to still be performing at an elite level at 38 is impressive.
Oh yeah, super impressive. And I mean, you look at his resume throughout his, long career. He has 24 men's Grand Slam titles, the most in history. He has the longest tenure being ranked the number one tennis player in the world. He has the record for that. And he just has so many other records where you look at his resume and it's built up. This was a conversation like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I think other names were being thrown in there, Roger Federer. But at this point, Novak Djokovic has only built up his resume. There's really no debate. I mean, maybe you'll hear a couple of old heads out there try and argue somebody else, but in my eyes, it's pretty clear that Djokovic is the greatest tennis player of all time. But the men's singles was not the only event happening at Wimbledon. We also had the women's singles, where very unfortunate showing for the Americans. You correct me if I pronounce this wrong, or forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. Amanda Anisimova An American made it to the finals. Very impressive to see. Go USA. But she gets shut out by Iga Swiatek, loses 2 sets to 0. And not only loses 2 sets to 0, she didn't score a point.
That's rough.
Yep. An incredibly dominant performance from Iga Swiatek. I believe that's another name that we've brought up before on this podcast.
Yep,
Um,
she was in the French Open as well.
so super interesting to see, and I'm excited for more circle backs from earlier episodes moving forward. But that was the results of the French Open. So moving on, I believe this is the second time we're talking about the MLB.
This is a big one, though. This is a big one. This
Yeah.
definitely goes out to all of our Boston area fans. We got to talk about the Red Sox. They've had sort of an up and down year. They've gone on runs. They've looked completely flat at points. And we talked about this earlier on the podcast with the Devers trade. What is this going to do to the Red Sox? Are they going to improve? Are they going to like just slide? And they have been absolutely insane. They're the hottest team in baseball right now. 10-game win streak. Their recent run against the Rays had some of probably the best moments from the season. Garrett Crochet pitches a complete game shutout against the Rays to win 1-0, 9 strikeouts in that one. Crochet is looking to be a Cy Young contender this year, which he absolutely should be. I believe he's got one of the lowest ERAs in baseball. He leads the league in strikeouts. And then the game before that, Ceddanne Rafaela walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth against the Rays. Just absolutely beautiful. Hit it over the monster. They currently are sitting at third in the AL East, but they have the same. I think they're like a game or two back from the Yankees. They're in the wild card. If there's one thing I could say about the Red Sox is no one wants to see these guys in the playoffs. If they can continue this hot stretch, they are going to be an absolute problem come October. And as a Red Sox fan, I'm excited to see them finally on a consistent run of form, playing some good baseball. And even their pitching has looked a little bit better. I know Crochet is pretty nasty, but they've had some other guys step up too, which is really good to see.
So my question for you, Brandon, is do you think they keep this up? Because one problem with the Red Sox is, they'll get hot, get to the All-Star break, and then crumble.
God, I hope so. I think with the guys they've had step up, I mean, Crochet is going to be good. Lucas Giolito, another starting pitcher, has been on a pretty good run. I think he's 6-1 on the season. He's been playing some pretty good baseball. Obviously, Aroldis Chapman's been a great closer for them. The bats are popping. They seem to have great team chemistry, which I love to see. And I don't know, something about this team makes me think they could really keep this up and they could sustain this level of play, which I did not anticipate post Devers trade. I think my perspective on the Red Sox season following that trade was a little bit more pessimistic than, whether, hindsight's 2020. But I think I definitely had a more negative view about the rest of the Red Sox season after that trade than maybe I should have because the Red Sox are on a 10-game win streak and the San Francisco Giants are 7-8 in their last 15. And Rafael Devers is apparently just as much a head case in San Francisco as he was in Boston, which I I hesitate to give Craig Breslow any credit for this because I'm not a fan of his and do not agree with the vast majority of decisions he's made for the Sox. But looking like maybe an um unintentional win for the Sox getting rid of Devers because he has been a problem. He was supposed to show up to, I believe, um first base practice with the Giants, just no showed. Doesn't want to move his position around just like he did here. You know, getting rid of someone like that, despite how talented Devers is, sometimes getting rid of someone like that and the negative presence in the locker room. This team looks like they're having fun playing baseball. The Sox are looking really good, and man, I they have crumbled post All Star break many times, but I really, really hope for the sake of all Red Sox fans and for these guys because they are playing incredible baseball right now that they just keep it up and get into the postseason because once you get there, I think this team has ability to make a run. Don't know how deep, but they can make a run. They can hang with anyone in baseball.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's exciting for Red Sox fans, besides the fact that they're on a 10-game win streak, is that for the first time in a long time, the Sox are seeing like a consistent buildup of new stars. You see Crochet, you see Jaron Duran, you see Rafaela. It's something you haven't seen in a long time on the Red Sox where you're getting like this many new stars being built up. Because I mean, I feel like for years we were scraping by with, you know, David Ortiz, who's aging out, a Dustin Pedroia, who's aging out, a Mookie Betts, who we traded away, a Jackie Bradley Jr., who is aging extremely poorly, and then Rafael Devers, who we just traded away. There's so many guys from like this last guard, and even before that, of the Boston Red Sox that we're really trying to scrape by with. But now, we've given ourselves the opportunity for the full reset, and we're seeing these new guys develop extremely well. So I think that's happy. I think Red Sox fans should be happy. Excuse me. I think we're coming to a new era of Boston Red Sox baseball, and I'm excited to see what they do next. Do you have anything else to say on that, Brandon, or should we move on?
Not much. Just saying, like you said, with developing young talent. I know Sedan Rafaela, he wasn't playing this good all season. I know at certain points the Red Sox were like, what are we doing here? Like looking for him to sort of take that stuff up. His last 8 games, his stat line is just disgusting. He last just in the last 8, mind you, 448 average, 5 homers, 14 RBIs. And I believe right now for the whole season, he sits at 15th in the league at wins above replacement, right above Ellie De La Cruz, which is another big name in baseball. So if he can continue this sort of run, obviously batting 448 is probably not sustainable for a whole season. But if he can at least be consistent with his batting, get his average up, like I think he's .270 on the season. If he can keep it there, maybe bumping up to like .280, maybe .290, he's going to be an absolutely fantastic player because his fielding was already elite. And if he can keep his bat popping like this, he's going to be an absolute star for the Sox.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're definitely going to be talking more baseball, especially as the All-Star break comes up. I know in my mind there are a few people that aren't going to make that All-Star team that definitely needs some recognition. My mind immediately goes towards that Milwaukee Brewers, but more on that in the next couple of weeks. Moving on from that, we've had the NBA Summer League in full force. Um, I think obviously the story going into this was going to be Cooper Flag. He's played 2 games and has now been benched for the rest of the Summer League, which we
Smart
saw.
decision.
Yeah,
Smart decision. You already saw what you need to out of him.
yep, you don't want a guy like that getting hurt too. We saw the San Antonio Spurs doing the same thing with Victor Wembanyama last year, and a lot of overreactions immediately from people watching these games for Cooper Flag. I mean, you see his first
Definitely.
game. He said it himself. It's probably the worst game he's ever played. Um, the mid off of the century, Cooper Flag versus Bronny James in
Oh,
the NBA
goodness.
Summer League. I believe Bronny dropped 8 points. Cooper Flag dropped 10. Just a horrible game all around. But
Yeah, the
immediately
shooting
after that
splits were
game,
not pretty to look at.
you hear all these people, oh, I knew Cooper Flag wasn't going to be that guy. I knew, he wasn't going to pan out. He's definitely going to be like, okay, whatever. That's ridiculous to say after one game of NBA Summer League. Because the NBA Summer League does not even necessarily translate to the NBA. I mean, if you actually watch the game instead of just making up opinions, you'd see that they were picking Cooper Flag up full court. No NBA team is doing that. They've built their entire game plan around this guy. When he goes to that actual Dallas Mavericks team, he's going to be playing with Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis. He's not the only focal piece of that team. So once we see him get out there and not get guarded full court, let's see what he can do. And even then, in the second game, I believe he dropped what, 33?
31 points on like 10 of 20 from the field, grabbed some boards, had a couple blocks. That was more what you expected to see out
Yeah.
of Cooper Flag. And like, this is unfortunately like the state of NBA casual discourse online, which like
Oh
it
my
ticks me
God, I
off so
hate
much.
it. I hate it.
Dude, so, especially in summer league, everyone is so quick to overreact to like one game. I'm like, relax. The dude's like 18 years old. He's in his first summer league game, mind you, not a real NBA game, like you said. And everyone's like, I knew he wasn't the guy. I knew he was going to be a bust. Like, he's not that good. I'm like, it's one game,
Let the kid breathe.
one time. It's ridiculous. Everyone wants to be like the first guy to say, "Oh, I knew he wasn't going to be good." It's like, all right, buddy, how about you relax and like watch him play the second game where he drops
Everyone
30
out there
points.
thinks they're Stephen A. Smith.
Horrible idea because even Stephen A. Smith, man, like everyone just wants to have like the controversial take, or it's like that we don't need that. That's not necessary. We don't need you saying, "Oh,
Well,
Cooper Flag
we
sucks because
we
he played one
we
summer league game."
we need that. They don't
We
need
need
that.
that.
We need
No,
that.
the and I'm talking about like the guys who hop on Twitter after every summer league game and are like, "Oh, I knew so and so was going to be a bust. I knew this dude was washed up before he got in the league." I'm like, it's one game. These guys, like half of them are like rookies that haven't even played an NBA game yet. Like,
Yeah.
let's get a decent sample size before we judge these guys. So
And they're not
that's
even
that's
playing
unfortunately
like
yeah.
necessarily an NBA style basketball. You have guys going out there shooting like 23s. Like sometimes you get to the summer league and these dudes get told, yeah, just let it fly, pull the trigger. It's not as serious as actual NBA games are going
I'm
to be.
okay. I'm okay with that as long as it's Baylor Shireman doing it. I caught both of the Celtics summer league games. Baylor Shireman looked nice, and then another guy that I thought looked good was Charles Bassey, who's a 6'10" big man. I think he had two double doubles in both of the games he played. Most recent one against the Knicks, 22 points, 13 boards, couple blocks. He was moving his feet well on defense, rotating. He looked like he could actually make the roster, considering the Celtics have no big men. And I think that's like probably the most fun part about watching the summer league is like you don't know where these guys are going to end up. Just because they're on the Celtics summer league team doesn't mean they're going to be on the Celtics. Like maybe one or two of these guys are going to make the actual roster. Some of them are going to get sent to Maine to play for the Maine Celtics. Some of them are going to end up on a different team. Some of them are going to go overseas. So it's fun to watch the games and be like, all right, this guy's a big man. He's got like what, 8 points, a couple blocks. He had a nice jump hook. Yeah, he'll go. Maybe he'll go to Maine. Maybe we'll keep him on the roster. Who knows? That's probably the most fun part of it, and I think it's probably the most useful part of it, as opposed to like trying to predict a player's entire 20-year career span from watching two summer league games.
Absolutely. You talk about standouts, and there was one guy that I wanted to bring up. Definitely has not been getting very much recognition throughout the summer league, but I was excited with his play. I like watching a talented big man, especially more of an old school big man, sitting in the post, grabbing rebounds, playing some good defense. Yang Hansen for the Portland Trailblazers, 7'1", kid's a monster, and he was exciting to watch. He didn't get a ton of minutes or super no super crazy flashy plays, um no super dazzling stat lines. He's not putting up 30 points like Cooper Flag, but in his two games he put up 10 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks. And then the second game he put up 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block. So he's really just filling up the stat sheet, and that's the thing you want to see in the summer league, because if somebody really can do it all, especially rookies, young guys, you can develop that as they go on. And a 7'1" center that can score, block shots, play some good defense, rebound. Of course, you have to rebound if you're 7'1", but even pass the ball. To see that sort of focal piece in the summer league, if you develop that, and I think you need to develop that as the Portland Trailblazers, but that's
Definitely.
going to be exciting to see in the future. He's going to be a player I'm looking at throughout the rest of this NBA Summer League, and even as the season moves on. I mean, there's not much to look at from the Portland Trailblazers, anyways. So,
Yep.
but
Also,
moving on,
speaking of big men though, got to give a shout out to Gonzaga legend Drew Timme. Believe he just dropped 30 points in a summer league game. I
wow,
don't know. I don't know. Something weird about Drew Timme, man. I don't know how he's not on a roster. I mean, he's obviously on defense. He's a little bit of a liability. Doesn't have the quickest feet, but he gets to the post. He's like an instant bucket. It's bizarre. I feel like if he played in like the 80s or 90s, he'd be like a consensus top 30 player in the league because his post bag is so deep. He's got so many moves. He's got a nice little hook shot. His pivot is disgusting. I'm like this. I feel like he's gonna end up on a team because he's not the type of like plug-in player where it's like, oh, he shoots threes and plays defense. He can work on any team. Like if he wants to play in the NBA, he's gonna have to find a team that's like willing to carve out a role for him. But like in terms of like bench scoring, like there's got to be some value for a guy that like you can put him on the court and like he'll instantly give you like 6 to 8 points just of like post scoring, like pretty much every night. Because Drew Timmy's disgusting. He's got a great bag offensively. He can get to his spots and get buckets. So I'll be interested to see where he ends up for the upcoming season.
Yeah, and that's one of the funny parts about the NBA. I mean, this reminds me of our Will Blaylock interview. In our second ever episode, we interviewed Iowa State Cyclone alumni and former Detroit Piston Will Blaylock, who made it to the league. He was a promising point guard, and health issues unfortunately led him to be cut by the Detroit Pistons. But then he played basketball around the world. You know, he played for the G League. He played all over Europe, in Central America. You know, he's playing all over the place. And one thing he talked about was how much NBA level talent there is around the world that's just not in the league because of how few spots there are. You know, it's super interesting to hear and you talk about a guy like Drew Timme where he ends up on a team if he doesn't at all. That's just a testament to how competitive pro basketball is.
Definitely. I feel like Timmy's gonna find a spot maybe on like a G League roster or on, a bench of an NBA team. But it truly is crazy to think about how like NBA is what, only 30 teams. They've got maybe what, 13, 14 guys on the active roster. That's not a
Yeah.
lot of spots. And there's a lot of really good basketball players. You look at these summer league games, it's like not all of these guys are going to be on NBA rosters. Most of them probably aren't even going to be on a G League roster. Just crazy to think about because
Yeah.
they're all incredibly talented players.
No, definitely some good insight to take into account here. So shout out Drew Timme. Let's see what happens. And shout out Will Blaylock again. Super awesome dude. Moving on, we have an event I know you're super invested in.
Yes, this
We
is a
had
big one.
UFC 317 just happened. We got UFC 318 coming up. Brandon, I'm curious what you have to say about both of these.
All right, so for anyone who doesn't know, I was and still am a fan of Charles Oliveira. I think he's a fantastic fighter. He's been responsible for some of the greatest moments in recent UFC memory. That being said, UFC 317, I'll run down the main and co-main event. Those are the two title fights, the two biggest names on the card, two biggest fights on the card. Alexandre Pantoja defeats Kai France by submission in like the second or third round. Complete domination from Pantoja. Again, I think he's got 4 title defenses. I don't really know what's next for him. Flyweight doesn't really have like a crazy contender right now, except for another fight on the card that I like almost forgot about. Joshua Van and Brandon Royval, two flyweights. I think it was Royval was ranked number one, and I think Van was like 13 or 12. They put on an absolute like war on the main card of this, not fighting for a belt or anything. These guys threw bombs at each other for 15 minutes. I honestly don't know how either one of them was like conscious at the end of the fight. But Joshua Van escaped that one with a victory over the number one contender. And now it looks like Van is next in line for the title against Pantoja. They went into the octagon after Pantoja's fight, did a little stare down, which I'm always a fan of. And then the main event. This is one that like it kind of broke my heart to watch this because I knew what was going to happen before it happened, and then I just had to kind of watch it. Ilya Topuria knocked Charles Oliveira out cold in the first round. Like it was, he had been saying that lead up to the entire fight. Topuria was like, "I'm gonna knock this dude out in one round. I feel horrible about it because I like Charles, but I have to knock him out. Like it's just gonna happen." And then I watch him do that. He does his walkout with like the El Matador music. He's like smiling as he enters the octagon. I mean, if we're talking from like purely like a visual perspective, the aura is off the charts with this guy. He has a level of confidence that very, very few fighters or athletes in general have. He walks into the octagon every time like he already knows exactly what's going to happen and he knows that he's going to win. Puts Oliveira out cold, lightweight champion. He's now, I think, either like the ninth or the 10th two division champion in UFC history. And I know Dana White has said this. I think it's pretty much confirmed after that card that if Makachev, Islam Makachev, former lightweight champion, if he moves up and defeats Jack Della Maddalena and gets the welterweight belt, the next fight to make for those two guys is Makachev versus Topuria super fight. I think they'll probably do it at 155. I don't think it makes sense for Topuria to move up another weight division. I think they'll probably have Makhachev go back down to 155 and fight Topuria. So crazy stuff there for my fellow Oliveira fans. I'm sorry. He's 35. He's 35. He's taken a lot of damage. It was probably going to happen no matter how the fight played out. He'll be back. He's still a legend. It's just Topuria is the guy right now. I mean, UFC pound for pound rankings reflect that Topuria moved up past Makhachev as the number one men's pound for pound fighter in the entire UFC. And on that depressing note, we'll shift into UFC 318. Poirier versus Holloway 3. To anyone listening to this who may know me personally, for those who don't, I am like the biggest Dustin Poirier fan on this earth. This dude, he's my favorite fighter. He's the guy who got me into UFC. I watched him throw down Max Holloway when he did it the second time. I saw the highlights from that. They were fantastic. I'm like, oh, I should check out the UFC. Then I saw him beat Conor McGregor for the first time at UFC 257. I love Poirier. He's my guy. He's fighting Max Holloway in the main event of UFC 318 in Louisiana for his last fight. The BMF title is on the line for this one. The card itself is sort of lacking high-ranking fighters. I think it's a little weird. You've got Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. Those are both top 15 middleweights. You have Kevin Holland taking on Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Holland's a big name, very active, big trash talker, so he's always fun to watch. And then Patricio Pitbull is taking on Dan 50K Ige on the main card. Pitbull just moved over from Bellator. I think he lost to Yair Rodriguez in his UFC debut, but he's looking to get his first UFC win against the hard-hitting Ige. And then Michael Johnson, UFC lightweight veteran, taking on Daniel Zaluber, who is a prospect who recently at the Noche UFC event last September put on, I think, fight of the year against Esteban Ribovic. I probably butchered his last name, but some very exciting fighters on the card. If I had to go predictions for this, I'm riding with Dustin. These guys have fought twice before. Dustin's beat him twice. Am I saying Max doesn't have a chance? No. Holloway's a great fighter. I think there's definitely a chance that Holloway plays the villain in this and ruins Dustin's retirement, which would make me very sad. Um, but I will be watching this entire card. So next regular episode we do, I will be giving breakdowns on all the fights because I will be watching every single one. Very exciting for the UFC. Um, Sad that Poirier's calling it a career after this one, but what a career for him. The Diamond has probably one of the best resumes in UFC history and has put on some of the most entertaining and exciting fights in the history of the sport. So will be fun to watch Dustin's farewell this weekend.
Yeah, definitely a sad day for UFC fans. I mean, I think he's been a staple for the company for so long, especially to the point where Diamond Dustin Poirier is a name that many non-UFC fans will have at least heard, and that name recognition is important for a company like that. So congratulations on the incredible career. Sucks to see him go. As far as the rest of what you talked about, the one thing I wanted to bring up is the discourse around Ilia Topuria, because I feel like almost like every like diehard UFC fan right now hates this guy. I mean, he's made a career of just knocking out these legends. That's what he's done in almost every fight he's had in recent memory. And me personally, who's gotten into UFC much more recently than, say, Brandon, who's been a diehard forever, I love this guy. I think it's so funny to see, him walk in, especially when you have all these UFC fans, all over social media, all of it is, oh, like, I need Topuria to lose tonight, this, that, whoever he's fighting. There is a tidal wave of people rooting against him. So to see a guy like this who I think it's pretty obvious he really just doesn't care about that discourse. He's just going in there and beating the fool out of people. That's really fun to see. I've liked Ilia Topuria so far. So, I'm excited to see what's next for him. A super fight would be awesome. Makhachev's a dog. So, I'm super excited to see what's next in that realm. Moving on, we've got some viewer questions now. I think I wanted to start. There were two questions we got from viewers that we asked in previous episodes. We asked them to both Todd Archer and Brady Olson, but I think it would be kind of fun if we answered them ourselves. And you've gotten a little bit of tidbits from us in the episodes, but it's time to get definitive. So I'm going to start from Mike S. in Bellingham, Massachusetts. Top three sports movies. So I think we start. You give your one, I'll give my one, you give your two.
Sure, sure. So for my, not saying this is like in order of like my favorite to least favorite, but first movie starting off, I am a cross country runner. I love the sport. Fantastic. So shout out St. Anselm cross country. Let's go. My favorite movie about running in general, McFarland USA with Kevin Costner. Absolute great movie. To any of my teammates out there that might be listening or anyone who's seen this movie, we're rocking with Danny Diaz. That's my guy. Absolute dog.
That's not
Incredible. Like,
Danny Diaz.
see, even you know it. Even you know it, Patrick, because the movie is gas. It's
Good movie.
awesome.
Good
It's a
movie.
super fun movie. Made cross country running sort of put it into the limelight for a little bit, which I love to see, and it's just an enjoyable watch. I watch it sometimes during the cross country season to get me a little like fired up, you know. So that's gonna be my first pick for top three.
So my first movie, a series I'm kind of shocked hasn't been brought up in our conversations about this yet in recent episodes. If you're curious about Brady's list or Todd's list, make sure to watch those last couple episodes. But one thing that kind of shocked me is we haven't brought up Rocky.
That's crazy.
Now, there are a couple ways you could go with this. I think Rocky 1 is probably, the most well-made, most critically acclaimed movie in the series. With that being said, I don't care. I'm going with Rocky 4. I think
Okay,
there's
that's
us
valid.
I think there's a certain air around Rocky 4, and just it's a little bit cheesy, but it's one of the most quotable movies of all time. You have this like comic book
Absolutely.
level supervillain in Ivan Drago. It was just like a fun.
He's fantastic in that movie too.
It, it was
He's
just
such an oh
so fun all around. It's like the epitome of an 80s movie, super quotable. I mean, even like you look at like how silly the ending is with the speech Rocky gives to end the Cold War.
Rocky
If
ended the
I
Cold
can
War.
change, you can change. We can
Just
all
incredible.
change.
In my head, that happened for real. Rocky actually beat the mess out of Ivan Drago and then ended the Cold War. Like that's it's a biopic. It's real life. It's just beautiful. Like I never get tired of Rocky Four. That's a valid pick.
So I'm gonna Rocky 4 is my definitive answer for that. And then I'm gonna give an honorable mention to Creed 2, very
Mm.
much a sequel to Rocky 4, also an incredible movie. Probably two of the best montages in the entire Rocky and Creed series. You Rocky in the snow, cutting trees down, getting super jacked in some log cabin in Russia. And then the one from Creed 2, Michael B. Jordan in the desert. That was also awesome.
That was fire.
But moving on, I want to hear your second pick, Brandon.
Second pick. This is a movie I've seen probably over 2, 3 dozen times. Also very quotable. Um, Starring Denzel Washington, one of my favorite actors ever. I'm going with Remember the Titans. Just a great story, great football movie. If you've ever seen the close saying, "You think football is fun?" Yes, he goes, "Yes, sir." And it's like, really, you don't think it's like, no, no, I don't think it's fun anymore, not anymore. Also, you don't think football's fun anymore. That movie it's got funny moments, it's got really heartfelt moments. The football scenes are awesome. Uh, oh God, Ryan Gosling's character, I can't remember his name. He's an absolute liability at corner. And it's so funny. They like bring it up multiple times in the movie that Gosling just can't defend to save his life. It's great. They got so many great characters in that. Like just I could watch that movie over and over again and never get sick of it. So
That's another one
remember
where
the
like
Titans.
you talk about, a lot of sports movies can end up being like really silly. That is like a great, like you can look outside the sports genre and that's just a great movie.
It is.
I think I have a similar pick to that next, getting a little more serious, where you can look outside the sports genre and it's an incredible movie. One of probably the most fondly remembered moments in American history. captured on the movie screen. We got Miracle. Just
Solid
an
pick.
just an incredible story in real life. I mean, another America versus Russia story. I guess that's just something I'm really enjoying if we're all looking at that and Rocky 4. But just an incredible movie, a ton of great performances, super heartfelt. There's some moments in that movie, like the one that sticks with me is when I forget the character's name. It's been a minute, but when the one guy gets cut from the team, that scene was just like super like devastating to see. But all in all, incredible movie, super heartfelt. Great ending, of course. The
So
hockey.
quotable too.
Yep, the hockey
Again,
scenes.
on the line.
The hockey scenes were super cool. So that's my second pick. What's your third, Brandon?
Before I give my third, a couple of things about Miracle that I absolutely love. First of all, I think the announcer call on that game is probably one of the best, if not the best. The guy going, "Do you believe in miracles?" Like it doesn't
Oh
give you
yeah,
goosebumps.
timeless.
You're not a sports fan. And second of all, I took a class. I can't remember if it was public speaking or like a rhetorical communication class, and we had an assignment where we had to pick a speech to analyze. And so many kids in my class picked the speech from Miracle that my teacher had to ban it. We had like seven or eight people that wanted to like dissect the speech from Miracle. And I was just like,
Wow,
that's how big this movie is. That's how beloved it is. Everyone
incredible.
wants, and that's how good oh my God. Can't remember the actor's name because I'm just drawing a complete blank. The coach.
Yeah.
That fire up speech just it gets you hyped up. It gets you
Yep.
hyped up. It's timeless. Uh, but yeah, I honestly, if Miracle wasn't on your list, I probably would have put it there. But for the sake of keeping things interesting, I'll have to think of a third sports movie. God, I have to.
Do you want me to?
I would want to say like the original Rocky, just because it is such like a well made film, such a great story. Like who doesn't love an underdog? Rocky's like the quintessential underdog in cinema, and I mean, shout out to like Sylvester Stallone, great performance in that movie. Bill Conti's score for that movie is sensational. If I'm doing a workout by myself and I need to get pumped up, like throw on the Rocky soundtrack, man. Like that, it's fire. It works every time. Imagining yourself in a training montage and you're Rocky speaks to how awesome those training montages are. And then, I mean, like the villain Apollo Creed, just awesome. The
Villain.
fight, yeah, he's like the villain, but he's not a bad guy,
He's a guy.
and he's a guy, and he's I mean, it's kind of hard to not like Apollo too. I mean, he's going
Super
out there
charismatic.
with the top hat, the America trunks. It's peak. It's awesome. I never get bored of Rocky, so I'll go
Caught me,
with
man.
Rocky for my third pick.
Yeah, definitely a great pick. I think, both Rocky and Rocky 4 are worth bringing up. Really, those first four movies were all super incredible. Um, for my third pick, there are a few things I want to bring up before I get to my third pick. There's one movie, both of them are basketball movies, and there's one movie that I have a hard time. Do I put this in my top three? Do I not? And that's Coach Carter. Coach Carter was an
That is a
amazing
banger.
movie, some great performances. Really just a crazy cast for that movie too. Obviously you have Samuel L. Jackson, but then you also have a young Channing Tatum in the movie.
I always forget. And you had Cruz pulling up from three with no
Oh my
regard, like
goodness. Yep.
just it's literally Steph before Steph.
It,
That's
change the game.
no
Change the game.
Coach Carter's a classic.
Coach Carter is a great movie. I saw it for the first time, I believe 2 or 3 years ago when it was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix or not, but incredible movie. And then the other thing I want to bring up, it's not a movie at all, but it's the greatest sports TV show of all time. So I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. Parents, don't watch it with your kids. Kids, don't watch it with your parents. But we're talking about Blue Mountain State.
Oh, Thad Castle, where
When
do
you
I
talk
even
about
begin?
when you talk about character acting in sports movies and TV shows, Thad Castle, Alex
Oh
Moran,
my,
probably the greatest duo to ever touch the football field. Another one that's
oh
just
my goodness.
super quotable. I don't think I will be saying those quotes, in
No,
and
no, not
yeah.
not really air friendly, but that show is an absolute riot. I mean, that's is it accurate? Hell no. But is it funny? Absolutely. I mean,
Absolutely
Thad
amazing.
Castle. It's crazy to think Alan Richson is now like super serious playing Jack Reacher on Amazon Prime when like his first like really big role in TV was like Thad.
Oh yeah.
Just
Well, the thing
no,
is,
can't.
they're coming out with the season four. Season four of Blue Mountain State, confirmed by Alan
I will be
Richson.
watching.
I don't
I will
know
be
how
watching
they're gonna
this.
do it, but it's gonna be great. Um, anyways, my
Coach Thad.
third pick, we talked about it with Todd Archer, semi-pro. Just a funny, great basketball movie. One of Will Ferrell's best movies all around, in my
Agreed.
opinion. It's just some super funny scenes, even the basketball scenes. Like the one scene where you got Will Ferrell's character Jackie Moon in the post, and he's just passing the ball back and forth like 50 times, take a couple dribbles. Just all around a super fun movie. Another pretty quotable one.
They
But
invented the
that,
alley oop.
yep. So that one rounds out my top three. Um,
That's a good list. And for anyone, I'll have to see if I can cook up something for the Instagram. We'll put these on there, and then we can ask for some viewer submissions on these and see what you guys have to say about your favorite sports movies.
we'll have to see what happens. Hopefully hopefully the result is a little less contentious than the
Yeah.
superhero draft was, our first viewer vote. So we'll see
Yes,
what
that was.
happens. Moving on, we have another question returning from the Brady Olson episode. He gave some good answers, so I'm curious to give mine and hear yours. Um, from Drew M in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you could only own one jersey from each of your favorite sports teams, who would it be and why? Example, Bruins, Brad Marchand, Sox, Pedroia, Pats, Brady, Celtics, Tatum. So obviously, Drew M just gave his. Not a bad top four. Um, or not, excuse me, not top four, but not a bad four jerseys. We will be using the same sports. So hockey, baseball, football, basketball. I think we'll do the same thing. We'll start with one sport. You'll go, I go. Then we switch to the next sport. We'll start with hockey.
I would say this is like a two-man race. On the one hand, from recent memory, favorite hockey player is Zdeno Chara. Love Big Z when he was in Boston, absolute menace. But for like throwback purposes, I think I might have to go. If I had to own one Bruins jersey, I would love to cop a Bobby Orr jersey. Who doesn't love Bobby Orr? I mean, that's like probably the greatest player in Bruins history, one of the greatest players in hockey history. And Bobby Orr jersey's cold. It's just cold. I love it. So I'm gonna go with Bobby Orr from the Bruins.
I'm going with Brad Marchand. Um, I just love what he embodied. He really embodied like Boston culture in sports. He was a little dirty, sure, but he's very tough,
He's
very
gritty.
gritty. Just an incredible athlete for Boston and incredible representation of like the character of Boston as a sports city. So that one was pretty easy for me. That one and one other are pretty similar. But moving on, we have the Boston Red Sox or baseball, I guess, if you don't want a Boston Red Sox jersey.
No, I mean, Red Sox are my favorite team, so I think I'm gonna have to go with the timeless Big Poppy. I already own a Big Poppy jersey and I love it, so I'm gonna rock with the greatest designated hitter in the history of baseball. We're rocking with Poppy on this one.
So I'm going in an incredibly different direction. You'll hear more about this guy from me as we move on with the MLB season. He's had a super great resurgence. Um, he was part of the most recent baseball game I've actually been to. I haven't been to a Red Sox game in quite a minute, but there's another athlete that I'm a big fan of around the league, and that's Christian Yelich. So I'm getting a Milwaukee Brewers Christian Yelich jersey, maybe one of those powder blue Brew Crew jerseys from a couple years ago. Those were pretty great. Obviously, former MVP. He's been struggling with injuries, but he's been making a pretty good comeback this year. He's exciting to watch. I've been supporting him for a minute now, so I'm going with Christian Yelich.
I believe a certain internet rapper from Wisconsin would be a big fan of this decision.
Maybe, maybe.
Maybe.
Um, moving on, we got football.
This is again another tough decision because I actually own a lot of Patriots jerseys. And I would say my favorite jersey that I own right now is my 90s throwback Drew Bledsoe jersey. But if I had to own just one, I gotta go with the GOAT. I gotta go with Tom Brady. I can't not have a Tom Brady jersey. I mean, that guy was uh like my sports hero growing up. Like he was so sometimes I miss like waking up and knowing that the Patriots were gonna go 12-4 and have a bye in the first round every year. And that was because of Tom Brady largely. So I'm rocking with the GOAT on this one. Give me like the white like the away jersey that we had back in like the mid 2000s Brady jersey.
So that's a great answer. Obviously Tom Brady, probably the paragon of modern sports in New England. I'm going with Blue Mountain State Thad Castle jersey. No, I'm kidding. I'm also going with the Patriots jersey, but I'm going with a little bit more of like a sneaky pick. My personal favorite Patriot of all time, and that's gonna be Danny Amendola. I think Danny Amendola's time in New England was so fun for me because he was never like a super flashy receiver. He was never our number one guy. But it feels like every huge game where like a play needed to be made, he was just flying out of nowhere to do
Insanely
something
clutch.
incredible. He was a ghost, you know, just came out of absolute nowhere.
No,
I
it's a good
think my
jersey.
favorite play when we played the Falcons, he had a couple crazy catches in the Super Bowl. Just awesome player, super fun to watch. So I got to go with Danny Amendola. And then
That's valid.
rounding it out, we got basketball.
Basketball, obviously for me, gonna be a Celtics jersey. Um, this is tough because there are a lot of players on like the current or like recent Celtics that I like. I own a couple Celtics jerseys. Um, I think I would have to go with my I think I'm gonna go with Rajon Rondo. Rondo was
That's a
my
good
favorite
answer.
player. Rondo was my favorite player growing up. Loved his court vision, how scrappy he was. Um, just had an incredible sense for passing, and I mean, who could forget the ridiculous fakes and behind the back passes? Like he was awesome. I wanted to be just like him. And number nine's a cold number, so I'm going with a Rajon Rondo jersey for this one.
That's just a great pick because he's a guy that really just embodied Celtics culture. Him and Garnett, out of that core were the two guys that really just, to me, embodied what it means to be a Celtic. But personally, I'm going with the modern embodiment of what it means to be a Celtic.
I know this. I know what he's gonna say.
Yeah, a very sad day, unfortunately, when he was traded away from the team. He was sacrificed for a championship, and I'll never get over that. But I'm going with Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart was the first ever jersey that I had picked out for myself, when I actually knew like what sports were and what, like a jersey meant. The first jersey I ever picked out was a Marquis Smart jersey, and my dad helped me with picking that out. Bought it at the TD Garden. We were at a game, so it would be a newer one because my Marcus Smart jersey is an adult medium, doesn't fit me anymore. But a new Marcus Smart jersey for the Boston Celtics would be the way to go for me. Marcus, come back. We miss you.
We miss Marcus.
We do indeed. But that's going to
Definitely.
round that out. Great question. Um, and we do have some new questions, and there's one I'm just going to touch on briefly because we'd already talked about it. But from Logan M. in Bellingham, Massachusetts, what were your opinions on the ending of Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky? Yeah, that's it. Moving on.
Moving on.
From Andrew M. in Bellingham, Massachusetts, what are your thoughts on the recent attack of Big Justice? How does that impact AEW? Okay.
First off, Andrew Mc, why are you watching AEW pay-per-view pre-shows in the big 2025? That is ridiculous. I don't like go outside. I This is insane. And second of all, Um, how do you think it impacts AEW? I'm concerned for the safety of the Rizzler. I think this attack on Big Justice is an affront to society. I want to see the Rizzler safe. I want to make sure that guy gets all of the chicken bakes and double chunk chocolate cookies that he can get. So, yeah, just inexcusable attack of Big Justice here. Um, I how does it impact AEW? AEW, let's say it's slightly more than it is now. I still will call AEW the retirement home for wrestling because that's what it is right now. So
So, for those who don't know, I
it
think we
gets me
got a
fired
little
up.
bit to cover in this question. We definitely have some older people in the audience, and this question must sound like French. So, AEW, um, also known as All Elite Wrestling, is a rival wrestling promotion to WWE, if you want to call it a rival. I mean, it's certainly a lot younger and not nearly as big. They do have some good wrestlers and some good matches. Um, but as far as the question goes, so Big Justice is a famous TikTok personality, so famous internet personality. And I believe he and his dad both got famous just for going to Costco and like
Yep.
eating food and saying boom. Um, and his dad was a professional wrestler. And now that they're big on the internet, he's getting back into professional wrestling for AEW. So the instance that Drew M is asking about, AJ, or Big Boom AJ as they call him, was wrestling a match. I think it was a tag match. I forget who his partner was. Um, but he was wrestling, and the bad guys of the match, the people that Big Boom AJ were fighting, one of them gets out of the ring and just like pushes Big Justice, and Big Justice is 13, 14, something like that. So then Big Justice gets in the ring and just spears the mess out of the dude that pushed him. It was a better spear than a lot of the spears you see in WWE, which is really
Better than Jey
embarrassing to
Uso.
say, considering he's a 14-year-old kid with probably no wrestling training. Um, Super fun moment, but it does bring up the discourse of just celebrities and wrestling in general. It's become a lot more common in like the last 10, 20 years, but it's always been around. I mean, you can look at the first WrestleMania of all time in which Mr. T teamed up with Hulk Hogan. So I'm curious, Brandon, what's your opinion on celebrities in professional wrestling?
I think when it's done right, it can be really fun. Some of the better ones I can think of in recent memory are ironically Big Boom AJ and the Costco guys in AEW. I think it's hilarious for whatever reason. Big Justice has like a semi nasty spear, which I think is just so funny. And then I can't ignore how funny it was to see I show Speed get absolutely flatlined by Randy Orton. That was hilarious. So I think you have to be careful to not overdo it and just like throw it in people's faces. But like when it's done right, especially when it's like someone who has kind of like a tie into the business, like these Costco guys apparently do. I think when it's done right, it can be really funny and it's good for like drawing in more eyes to wrestling events.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I think it can be fun. I mean, I think in terms of AEW, you definitely are the second promotion in professional wrestling. I think even like Tony Khan, the owner of AEW, has to acknowledge that WWE is still much bigger. It's just numbers. So you kind of have to do whatever you can to try and garner that similar level of viewership. So bringing in the Costco guys can be a good answer to that, I guess. And someone like, Big Boom AJ who has professional wrestling experience, it's good to see because you want people in there who can wrestle. Um, the one issue I have with celebrities in wrestling is the oversaturation of celebrities in wrestling right now. You'll have these people showing up that can't wrestle at all and just want to be on WWE. And so it's like, okay, what the hell? Here you go. Speed got murdered in the Royal Rumble, but he's an
That was
athlete,
funny.
so that was cool. But then you have, I think, like the most egregious example right now is you have Travis Scott.
Oh yeah, this was
Travis
bad.
Scott in the main event of WrestleMania, you had John Cena fighting Cody Rhodes. So maybe the
That was so
greatest
dumb.
WWE superstar of all time versus like the modern face of the company right now. You have Travis Scott walk out to Fiend. He comes out to help John Cena, and he just punches Cody Rhodes like clean in the face, gives him a black eye. Like these people need to care about it enough to at least train a little bit. Because how are you going to have one spot to do and then mess up? So there's just some oversaturation with some people that can't wrestle at all. Um,
Yeah,
there are even more like lined up appearances, like Travis Scott's coming back, or Jelly Roll is going to be wrestling at SummerSlam. I don't know if Jelly Roll can wrestle or not. We'll see. But there have been some great instances of it. I mean, I don't love complimenting the guy, but Logan Paul came in and he is like a WWE superstar now. Freak athlete. Everything he does is pretty great in terms of the WWE. And then like in terms of just like more one-off celebrity appearances, you had Bad Bunny fight Damian Priest in Puerto Rico, and it was very
that
clear
was
that
pretty
Bad
cool.
Bunny trained for that match. That crowd, a crowd has never been more electric in the history of the sport. When Bad Bunny walked out, um, I thought my
That was
TV
crazy.
was going to explode because of how loud it was getting. And then another one that I want to bring up is Cody Rhodes fought Stephen Amell at SummerSlam years ago. Stephen Amell is another one that trained for it. Shout out the Green Arrow. Um, so they're
Great
definitely
show.
great instances, but I just prefer it when, they actually like care. Because Travis
Yeah,
Scott, even if he is a WWE fan, he didn't put in the effort to even learn how to throw like a good fake punch.
he injured one of the top stars in the promotion, which is just inexcusable. Like, come on,
Yeah.
do
So
better.
that's all on that. Moving on, we have one more question that we already basically answered. So if you want to touch on it one more time, we can, and then we'll call it a day. From Logan M in Bellingham, Massachusetts, do you think the Red Sox can keep this momentum after the All-Star break?
The short answer is I don't know. I think there are certainly factors that would make me think they could. Rafaela's run of form, obviously we talked about that, has been promising. Our pitching staff has been stepping up. Obviously, Crochet's been just disgusting all season, but having guys like Giolito step up and put in some solid starts is promising to see. And the bats are popping, the vibes are high. I see no reason why they can't continue this past the All Star break, and I certainly hope they do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the new blood in the locker room really makes me hopeful that they can. It's not the same core that has been struggling, so we'll see. But that is it for the viewer questions, and that is it from us here at the Play by Play. So thank you for watching. Make sure to tune in next time. Thank you for listening to the Play by Play with Patrick and Brandon. Make sure to check out our Instagram and stay on the lookout for new episodes on YouTube or Spotify.